Hey everybody, welcome to Module 3. This module we are going to be doing a causal analysis essay. And one of the topics that you all voted on at the beginning of the semester was food traditions. So I'm very excited about this topic. A causal analysis is we are investigating and explaining the causes of something. So in this essay, we're not really making argument or putting forth our opinion, but we're teaching our readers how something has come to be or how it's changing or what it is. So our first blog 7, we need to do some preliminary research so that you can choose what topic you specifically want to look into, because we're going to be using outside sources to help us explain whatever it is we choose to explain. And so if we're going to be reading about this topic and writing about it, you should definitely pick something that's interesting to you. And food traditions is an enormous topic. Like, that's huge. Think about how much of our life revolves around food. And not just the eating of it, but the planning, the growing. It's in our ceremonies and our traditions and our celebrations and our rituals. So Blog 7 is asking you to start thinking about your topic. And it can be a little overwhelming because the topic is so big. But there are some little nooks and crannies you can go into to find a more specific topic. First of all, you can think about our food traditions. So think about our holidays. What comes to mind when you think about food and our holidays? What do we have at Thanksgiving? What do we have at Easter? What do we have at New Year's? You can look at certain ceremonies and the importance of food in those ceremonies, like communion. We don't usually think about that as food, but right? We're eating bread, drinking wine, or we got the communion wafers or whatever. Wedding cake, birthdays. Think about these celebrations and ceremonies. You can also zoom in on a particular dish or food item. I was reading an article about cornbread and about this kind of debate people have on whether you put sugar in cornbread or whether you include wheat or if it's just cornmeal. And there's kind of like this classist exploration, the social exploration of why people make their cornbread in different ways. You can look at the history of things. So for instance, I don't joke, but I just got done reading a book called The 6,000 Years of Bread. It's holy and unholy history. So you can look at a particular food item or tradition and examine its history. So the history of bread is very fascinating. It takes us all the way back to the beginning of civilization, right? What about, the potatoes in Peru? Or things that have established whole civilizations. You can also look at how things have been changing. So, it used to be people made all their own food. And now we get a lot of our food. If you go to the grocery store and just look through the produce section, this is from Guatemala and that's from Venezuela and that's from everywhere. So you can look at how our food supply and food practices have changed. But now, with the COVID pandemic, I saw people who never bothered to plant gardens or cook and bake are now all of a sudden planting tomatoes and learning how to make sourdough bread. So you can look at how things are changing. You can look at the increase in vegetarianism or veganism or a certain dietary trend like the keto diet or Atkins or things like that. You can also look at impacts on the environment or impacts on the animals. So what happens in our dairy production? So how has that changed? How have we gotten to where we're at in that situation? And there's other things that you can look at that like if you want to look at particular people who are involved, like Temple Grandin, it is a animal rights activist, and specifically regarding cows. And she's also an autism rights advocate. She's really fascinating. Or somebody like Ron Finley, who started all these community gardens in South Central Los Angeles. He calls himself the Gangsta Gardener. And changing zoning ordinances that say, okay, you can't grow a garden in your front lawn. It's illegal. You're only allowed to grow grass. And he's like, well, why can't we grow food? So there's all these kinds of people who are involved in our food production as well. You can look at the technology behind them. So our genetically modified organisms, our GMOs, and how some of those got to be the way that they are, and some of the controversy around them. So it's a huge topic. So think about what you're interested in. Are you interested in zooming in on particular culture, like our Appalachian foodways, or if you want to go into your own heritage and, explore. I'm Norwegian. They like to eat historically rotted shark meat. Like if you want to, if you're Scottish and you want to learn about haggis, you can look into your own family's history. So the topic is wide open, and that's the purpose of the blog this week, is to try to narrow this down, because I read a whole book just on the history of bread, right? So there's a lot that can be said about these things. So think about what's interesting to you, or what's confusing to you, or you've always heard about. Do those people really eat these things, or how did we get to where we are? So I look forward to seeing what you all pick and what you're wanting to study and write about this. Make sure that you ask me any questions that you have, and I look forward to your blogs this week.